Okay, well, welcome back to the Aitken Aitken Cohn Staff Spotlight. And I'm very proud to have here Atticus Wegman, my partner. Atticus, thank you for doing this and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
Appreciate that. So why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about your early years and kind of your formative years, where you grew up, where you went to college. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. I grew up in New Hampton, Iowa, which is a small town, northeast Iowa near the Wisconsin and Minnesota border. Really small town, 5,000 people. We had a main street, 3 traffic lights, a real special place. Not many places that I think it can be nowadays where, I was 8 years old and I would probably take my bike out in the morning and I wouldn't come home until, I don't know, late at night for supper, and no one knew where I was. I was totally unaccounted for 12 hours, and it was just fun. So a lot of great people, a good, strong sense of community, a real special place.
Well, I know a little bit about that. I grew up in Placentia here in Orange County, Atticus, and we were all orange fields. So I'll out my parents. They didn't know where I was out for 12 hours a day either. So, through time, since, we've been at the firm, a lot of people ask me about your name, and I know your name has an incredible significance in the legal world and in movies, et cetera. Can you tell me a little bit about your name, Atticus, and kind of how that all developed?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'd thank my mother. I know she loved the book and the story. Her father, my grandfather, was a pretty well-known lawyer in Iowa, actually. He was a county attorney, and then he became the state public defender, actually. And I know he had, enjoyed the book, and I'm sure that had an influence on my mother. And then I have now been blessed with the name. So yeah, it's a great name. I'm very, I have a lot of pride in the name. My family's actually having some fun with the name. My wife and I have a daughter who's now 4 years old, and to continue with the theme and To Kill a Mockingbird, we named her Scout. So there's an Atticus and a Scout at our household. So we're having fun with it.
Why don't you tell me kind of how you eventually made your way to California, and how did you learn about us, and how you eventually got your path to Aitken Aitken Cohn?
Sure. My mother actually took a job teaching on Edwards Air Force Base, if you know where that is, like Antelope Valley, Lancaster, Palmdale area. And that's how I came out here during high school. And then, after college, I came to Orange County to go to school at Chapman. And in law school, I interviewed here at Aitken Aitken Cohn and took a position as a law clerk. And at that time, everybody respected Aitken Aitken Cohn and knew of our results and the Disneyland cases and all that. So it was, really a place I wanted to be. And then I really just tried to force my way in. And really what's important to me is also becoming my own lawyer and being myself. And I feel like I've done that, and I'm happy with who I am as a lawyer now after 10 years or 12 years of doing this. So it's been a great adventure so far.
Time flies. Has it been about 12 years now, I guess?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, 12 years I've been with the firm.
Tell me about let's talk about your areas of practice, areas of specialty. Tell me what you do for the firm.
Sure. All personal injury cases. I certainly handle from your motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, to construction site accidents. And really lately, actually, I've had a fair amount of products liability cases, which I've been jumping into more. And so those are pretty interesting, going against multinational and international companies on a couple of these cases. So, yeah, it's taxing work, but it's rewarding, and it's always motivating knowing that the clients we represent are really deserving people and have unfortunately been wronged. So
It can be also a very complicated area to law, at least in my experience. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, yeah, no question about that. It's different than your motor vehicle crash case or something, but it requires a bit more attention to detail on certain areas and quite a bit more expert work. But at the same time, it's, I think, equally rewarding, and knowing that the people that we're fighting for are good people that, like I said, are deserving of this and are really, unfortunately, in bad places with their injuries and so forth.
You've been really, with your amazing work, you've really been gotten a lot of awards, a lot of distinctions, a lot of recognition that is well deserved. What are what are you most proud of? I mean, as far as the distinctions, awards, trials, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think the trial work, just because it was so intimidating coming out of law school to handle trials and do that kind of work. And now that I've done so many of them, I feel great about it. And it's really something I feel like I've not mastered necessarily, but I've got it down, and I'm not losing. That is just the answer. I'm just not losing. But one experience that stands out is a trial I had in San Francisco a couple years out of law school. I was just a baby, and I packed my car with a projector and filled it with exhibits and medical records and drove up to San Francisco for 2 weeks. And I stayed at a cheap, for downtown San Francisco standards, a cheap 3-star sort of plus hotel. And for 2 weeks, I would get up in the morning, I would hoof it to the courthouse, probably half a mile, and tried this case where a client was hit on her bicycle by a taxi cab, and the taxi cab company was offering her like $50,000. And the client was a nice 25-year-old girl, and she stood up for herself. And she said, "No, I'm not taking that money. I'll take you to court." And she risked a lot. And at the end of the day, the jury sang loud and clear, $162,000. And defense counsel jumped off of his seat almost. He almost fell down. And the client was just bawling in tears. And we had the biggest hug. And it was like, all right, this life is real. And it was cool. It was a great experience.
Tell us something that would maybe people would be surprised to learn about you.
Kind of funny story related to the law. When I was in high school, I wouldn't say I'm a celebrity, but my mother and I were on Judge Judy because, sad story, we had two small miniature dogs. They're little Yorkshire Terrier teacup dogs, I guess. We went on a vacation and used the dog sitter to watch them over the weekend. And when we came back, the dog sitter said she just lost one of the two. And whether that's true or not, she wouldn't, pay for the dog or really make much effort to even really locate the dog. So my mother wrote a letter to Judge Judy, and Judge Judy took our case, and it was televised, and and we won. So,
So who did most of the arguing? Was it you or your mom?
It was my mom. Yeah, it was my mother. Yeah.
So you got to learn from different family members as it relates to how to argue in the courtroom.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
So if you're speaking, I guess, someone's contacting you at Aitken Aitken Cohn, what would be your message to them about yourself, about the firm? How would you answer that?
Yeah, I think clients would say that I'm caring and determined, but most importantly, somebody that is just not going to be outworked. I really pride myself in taking, and working on behalf of clients to make sure the client's never, ever going to be worse off having met me. They're only going to be better, and we're just not going to lose. And so I just don't think I can be outworked, right? And then I also, I certainly treat the client like family. I sense that, our clients are getting pushed around, and then I just naturally, maybe sometimes I go too far, but I naturally stand up for the client and make sure that they don't get pushed around. So, I take them I take my cases very personal, and I really respect the client.
I appreciate that. That's why you get such great results, Atticus. Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Thank you.